Ladies and gentlemen, Kung Fu practitioners and citizens of the Aging Gracefully community, if you see me crying over the next 15 minutes, I beg you not to judge me. That is an earned emotion. That is how I'm just going to react, because today is a red letter day on the channel, and I'm not ashamed to tell you that every step in this process, I've felt like I've had this powerful, energized golden glow surrounding me the entire time I put this review together, the entire rewatch, all of it. Best feeling I've ever had in my life. And if you ever sat down and dove into this film, be it, back in the 80s or even 80 minutes ago, you know the feeling that I speak of. So filibustering aside, cue the tears. Let's sit down and look back at 1985's Berry Gordy's The Last Dragon. Really quick ask, before we get too much into things, before I get carried away with the awesomeness that we're about to talk about, think about liking this video for me. It helps me out. It pushes this out to more people. More discussions can be had about 80s goodness. Think about subscribing to the channel. You know all the things I typically ask for. If you would be so kind, think about doing that. Think about investing in what we do here. And by investing, I mean, don't send me your money. Just send me your thoughts. Send me some of your recommendations. Let's have open conversations about how good some movies out there can be. Do that now, and let's go ahead and roll into the review. We're gonna share a lot over the course of this review, and I gotta tell you, I was unbelievably confused by this movie the very first time I watched it, because did you guys ever see that film, I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker? I mean, really, really fun movie, right? Felt similar to this, and maybe it's, I think they call it blaxploitation, those films that came out back in the day. It felt like a follow-up or an answer to The Karate Kid from a year prior. At least that's what I thought then. And then after a million rewatches, you realize these two martial arts centric films could not be more different. This movie tells you what it is right off the bat. From the very opening credits, we get a martial artist sitting there going through his routine. This guy's already trained. This isn't Daniel LaRusso, who winds up getting good at martial arts by the end of the film. This dude is coming into the movie as that guy. We have a banger of an opening theme. We're going through a routine with Leroy, or Bruce Leroy as some people refer to him in this movie. Talented as he may be, Leroy does have his Mr. Miyagi in this film, and the credits he's known only as Master. And as far as the Master goes, seems like a nice enough guy. He's not having Leroy sand the floor. He's rather shooting arrows at him while he's going through his workout. But he's getting to a point, and he's trying to teach these skills to this eager and talented young man, that there isn't anything more to teach to Leroy. I mean, the kid is basically at 100% completion of this game. There's not any challenges that Leroy hasn't really already conquered. And this makes Leroy a little bit restless, because he's always looking for the next level. He's always looking to be better, which is admirable, because you should, as a human being, always try to be better today than you were the day before that. That's what you should strive for. And that's what Leroy's going through right here. And he tells us of this elusive glow, which is just an energy that engulfs your entire body when you reach that final level. And sensing that he needs to give his student, something more to do, the master hands him this belt buckle and tells him he needs to find Master Some Dumb Goy for his final test. And I knew exactly, more or less, what that meant from the very get-go, because some dumb guy, that's hilarious to me. But that is the quest that Leroy sets out on as we roll into the film. And off we go to a banger of a soundtrack. I really cannot stress, and I'm going to say banger a lot because I have limited vocabulary, but the music in this movie is just really, really good. I mean, obviously it's dated, it's 80s, but damn it all to hell, I dare you to put on an 80s record today and not stomp your feet. It's impossible to do, and that goes double for anything you're going to hear in this movie. We meet Bruce Leroy's foil in this film almost immediately when we get to an unruly kung fu cinema scene where a gang of oddly dressed thugs storm into this theater to acquire seats for a man they call Sho Nuff, the Shogun of Harlem. And it is every bit as entertaining as it sounds. And there's a lot that happens here in this theater. You know, fights break out, boom boxes are smashed. There's a guy in a belly shirt who is all too eager and happy to throw hands, but the seeds are firmly planted for the collision course that we are bound to be on with our antagonist and our protagonist, because Sho Nuff thinks he owns the streets of Harlem. And I guess back in the day, if you knew Kung Fu and you were really good at it, maybe you could own the streets. But Shogun's convinced of it. And somebody says out loud that Bruce Leroy could beat him. And sure enough, sitting in the front row, eating popcorn with chopsticks, which I thought was a great touch, is Bruce Leroy. Sho Nuff confronts him, wants to fight him. Bruce Leroy is a pacifist. He says, I'm going to pass. And that legend of Bruce Leroy is out there. He's almost like a comic book hero to a lot of these people in this town, because there's stories about him being able to catch bullets with his teeth. And he's the last dragon. And as Beast puts it, Beast is Sho Nuff's right-hand thug, he says that Bruce Leroy is the only guy that stands between Sho and total supremacy. Now listen, a lot of this dialogue and a lot of this banter and just the idea of it is so ludicrous, but it's so goddamn fun to listen to watch. The brawl in this theater is insane. Wouldn't happen, right? But man, it looks good here. And listen, Leroy's just not going to fight him. You know, he's trained at a few situations, and he's happy to walk away from this guy who is, realistically, he's all of 6'8", probably 115 pounds, parachute pants, Legion of Doom style shoulder pads that he walks into places wearing. Some of the most pointless glasses you will ever see a human being wear. But I love this character. I love Bruce Leroy is fantastic, but Sho Nuff, I mean, he's one of my guilty pleasures of cinema across the decades. Forget just narrowing it down to the 80s. Honestly, one of my favorite characters of all time. And we move on to our next villain after that, because yes, we do have more than one villain. And we meet Eddie Arcadian, who is as cartoon of a bad guy as I've ever seen in a motion picture. You know, that's not to say he's bad, because I think he's actually really good in this role. Gets a shiny criminal lair that looks like an arcade, and the dude even pays some of his help in quarters off his desktop. The top stooge is a guy named Rocco, who I believe is played by Mike Starr. And if I'm not mistaken, his brother starred in Halloween 4 and 5. I'm going to double check that, and I'll probably edit it out if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Girlfriend Angie is there. She winds up being the center of the whole ordeal that this movie sort of revolves around, because Vanity is here as Lord Charles. And I swear to you, as I sit here before God and all of my creepy collectibles, I thought this woman was the most gorgeous creature that was ever placed on this rock called Earth for about 10 years. Biggest crush in the world on her when I saw her on an episode of Friday the 13th, the series. I watched that episode 100 times. It was just... she's stunning. And, you know, Prince dated her, and, you know, Prince has only got the best taste, but rest in peace to Vanity, of course. That's one of the saddest stories you'll ever listen to, but, you know, we're going to try to keep it a little bit upbeat. In this movie, she's tremendous. She plays Laura Charles, who is a video DJ of a studio music show called Seventh Heaven. And here, the first thing we see her do is introduce Rhythm of the Night by DeBarge. And I dare you, from me to you, I want you to put that song on, and I dare you not to move some part of your body. If you're in a bad mood, go put it on right now. And tell me you don't feel better by the time. It's so ridiculous. The guy looks a little ridiculous, but that dude can sing, and the song is fun. It's just bouncy, and it sits so well in the middle of this movie. Now, Arcadian threatens Laura's manager, which is played by William H. Macy, of all people, Frank Gallagher, if you can believe that, from Shameless. Absolutely, just you get a little bit of him here, but he would go on to much bigger, much better things. And Arcadian threatened this guy to get Laura to play his girlfriend Angie's music video on the show. Now, when she refuses, she winds up getting abducted by Chaz frickin' Palminteri in a bit role as a goon. It's good to know before he played Sonny in A Bronx Tale that he was going to cut his criminal teeth in a kung fu banger. Chaz is, for the limited time we have him, great mustache, gets kicked through the window of a car that he's driving and doesn't realize it until he stands up and looks around. It's a funny, funny scene. As much as I love Vanity, though, and I adore her, her character here being kidnapped is a recurring theme of the movie, as is Leroy coming to her aid. And I can tell you, as a little boy, that's exactly what you dream of. I mean, that's what I dreamt of as a little boy. I don't know, maybe people are different, but I always dreamed of saving the pretty girl in school from danger and then having her make those twinkly eyes at you like Laura does here at Leroy. But before she winds up getting too far with him, as in getting a name or getting to know him in the least, dude pulls a Batman and he just vanishes into thin air. The movie has several really fun, really great set pieces that both entertain you and further this story along perfectly that they're trying to tell. The pacing in this movie I always thought was really, really good. A big one is when we get to Leroy's dojo, where he's teaching martial arts to kids, building upon what we already know of this amazing human being. He's teaching kids self-defense. And then, of course, Sho Nuff and his gang show up to try to do no good, cause a little bit of trouble, and goad Leroy into finally having that face-to-face confrontation that Sho Nuff desperately needs to cement his reputation out there on the street. Now, the challenge is ignored again, and it's only when one of Leroy's students, Johnny, who's a great character in this movie. I don't know if we'll talk about him a ton, but he's worth watching. He's very fun in this film. He winds up being threatened. He gets grabbed by Beast, and Beast threatened to snap him in two if he doesn't pay proper respect to Sho Nuff and kiss his Converse, which, I mean, come on. What an iconic movie line. Leroy bows to him, kisses his Converse, gets kicked in the face, and he is reminded by Sho Nuff, we are going to fight. This is going to happen one way or the other. I adore Leroy's family in this movie. I mean, they've got a great slogan for their pizza parlor that they run in Harlem. Just directed your pizza to Daddy Green's Pizza. Absolutely dig it. But I got to get a little spicy with you on something I feel like regarding this family, and that is little brother Richie. Leroy's little brother, he's the third villain of this movie for me, because this mouthy little 12-year-old hates on Leroy constantly, criticizes his lack of interest in girls, mocks his martial arts, just a resounding dick to his brother from sunup to sundown. Now, while we're on the subject of the family, Sho Nuff decides to take it upon himself to show up at the pizza parlor and introduce himself to Leroy's kin, and it goes bad. He destroys the entire pizza parlor. All of his goons help, trashes the jukebox, playing one of Angie's songs in a fun sort of way to kind of merge the two bad guys, all before dumping Richie into a trash can head first. I gotta shout out Leroy's mom though, because she is chucking balls of dough at these guys as they destroy all of their shit. Another really great pivotal point in the film, because this is sort of the step before the step for Leroy, right? Leroy shows up as the bad guys are leaving, and Richie calls him a coward in front of his whole family. And his family loves Leroy, but they have that look on their face like, what have you brought to our doorstep? And then we get a great training montage in Leroy's dojo. He feels guilty. He's trying to put together in his head what he has to do. There's a lot going on, and Laura herself is fully invested in getting what she wants, and she approaches Leroy about him being her bodyguard because there's so much craziness surrounding her right now. And initially he sends her away. You know, he's just in a dark place at this moment in time. But eventually, though, we get an awesome scene where she takes him to the sound studio where Seventh Heaven is filmed, and she plays a montage of Bruce Leroy movies and just absolutely delicious 80s music. Imagine, though, this chick having to chase a guy. I didn't understand it at the time, but it works. I mean, she gets a kiss or 10 out of Leroy, and it's just freaking adorable. I absolutely love that for both of them. But Leroy has to rush off, and wouldn't you know it, she gets abducted again, as does Richie this time. So this, we talked about the step before the step. Well, this is the step. They overstepped. That was the breaking point, and this is what gets him to agree to fight Sho Nuff, who has been hired by Eddie Arcadian to deal with his Leroy problem. Now, I can tell you, as somebody who's seen this movie countless times, the scene where Eddie Arcadian, who is a very short, very bald guy, shows up to hire Sho Nuff with a case full of money while wearing a wig and calls him Mr. Nuff in a very businesslike way, I lose my shit every time I hear that. And I just appreciate how consistent the filmmakers of this movie were to just plant little things like that that are repetitive enough for you to catch them here and there. I just absolutely love that, and they use it later on in the film. This showdown that we've been building to is everything we hoped it would be. Massive brawl between the goons that Arcadian has hired and Leroy's students that show up to help him out, including a very young Ernie Reyes Jr. And if you don't know who that is, he was in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. He's done a lot of really great things within the martial arts community and film. We also get a Leroy sort of tuning up Beast, who again is Sho Nuff's right-hand guy, before we finally wind up with Sho Nuff, silk red jammies and all, strutting into the picture, going hand to hand for the supremacy of Harlem. Great fight. Just phenomenal. When we get to a point with this battle where Leroy kicks Sho Nuff through paneling and looks down at him, and he's on the ground, he's beaten up, he's got blood coming out of his head. Leroy takes his foot off the gas and starts to walk away. And then what came next was something that changed my life as a young man, because Sho Nuff, upright and just fresh as a goddamn daisy, ready to continue this fight with a cherry red glow surrounding his whole body. I mean, holy dark side, Batman. This shit, for me, when I saw that, I was on my feet for the last 20 minutes of the film. That was amazing. It was amazing then, and it's amazing now. Leroy knows he's in trouble too, because that glow is what he's been searching for this entire runtime of the film. Takes a really badass whooping after that too. I mean, all of the strikes that Sho Nuff connect with, they're amplified by these little red sparks to signify that the glow has that extra energy behind it. But you know, Sho is so obsessed though with getting Leroy to admit that he's the master. Probably gives him a little bit too much of a window in hindsight, because when the bad guy tries to drown the good guy, we're treated to flashback scenes encouraging Leroy to realize that he's been the master all along. You know, he's been that student, he's been that guy, he's been at the final level, and he just needed to realize that power was already within himself. And then he comes up, Sho Nuff asks him one more time who the master is. Leroy tells him, I am. Sho Nuff throws a punch, Leroy catches the punch, and then that golden glow is just emanating out of Leroy. And it is awesome. And I usually root for the bad guys, and I love Sho Nuff, but man, when he started just wailing on Sho Nuff, and every strike he was connecting with would give those blue sparks and yellow sparks, it was over. It was over. There wasn't anybody there to throw in the towel for this guy. Leroy did the right thing. After he kicked him into a vat of water, he pulled him up so he didn't drown. But that was game, set, match. Slap Mr. Nuff around. It was a blast to watch. Now, he winds up catching, Bruce Leroy does, a bullet with his teeth for good measure. He ends up at a white party, sans Diddy, and then he winds up getting the girl at the end of this film. What a beautiful bow to put on a movie. Now, here's where I get myself in a shade of trouble, because I know what this movie means to me. Okay, and I don't know if I've built up any credibility with movie reviews. I'm not an expert. I don't study these things. I didn't go to film school. I don't break down camera work and lighting and transitions. I don't know about any of that shit. I just like being entertained by good films, and I like to give my thoughts on them if people are out there willing to listen to that. So with this film, realistically, it's not a perfect film. It's just not. It's fun. It's a good time. It's 80s vibe. It's everything you would want out of a movie when you go to, like, if you paid money to get a ticket to this movie and go sit down in a theater and watch it, you left with a smile on your face and you felt like you got your money's worth. And I realized that the perfect stories I've handed out are like for Halloween and Seven, and I think we just gave one to Big Trouble in Little China. So realistically, this movie's probably closer to an 8, a 7.5, or an 8 out of 10. But these are my rankings. This is my review. This is my score. And I'm giving Berry Gordy's The Last Dragon a 10. A 10 out of 10. Tell him, Billy Bob.
I give it a 10. A 10. A fucking 10.
Yeah. This movie is the epitome of a good time. The music, the style, the look, you're transported into a different place. You're not going to be able to go to a place that looks like this in real life. I don't know that you could have then. But my point is, you just feel like you've escaped into a new world. and you're watching all of this happen around you, and you're living vicariously through this just pure, amazing young man out there doing his thing, trying to take care of his family, trying to take care of his students, trying to be a good person. It's just so much fun. The villains are good. They're believable. There's a villain of each type of caliber. You got your serious guy with your Sho Nuff who just wants to beat everybody up and rule the streets. You've got a midget Eddie Arcadian who thinks he's a gangster. Richie's a prick. I love it. I love everything about this movie. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. And I know people are going to argue, but I think there's going to be more people that agree with me than disagree with me. And I'm willing to take that chance. So drop in the comments what you thought of Berry Gordy's The Last Dragon. Let me know. Let's have a conversation about it, because I really feel like this is a gem, not an unknown gem. People know about this movie. I think this is one of the great ones from the 80s. And I'm willing to have that discussion with anybody that wants to debate me, or if we want to agree with each other, we'll just sit there and talk about our favorite scenes. That being said, you have to subscribe to the channel. You don't have to, but I'd appreciate it if you did. Comment on the video, like the video. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for being here. This is so much fun for me to do all this stuff. Even editing the videos and realizing that I talk sometimes like I'm chewing on my face. I dig it. This is a really good hobby for me, and I appreciate anybody that's willing to be a part of it. So this is Aging Gracefully. I'm Matthew Essex. I will see you on the other side.